Do you recognize this man? I mean, that's Dristo Erden, one of the more famous D&D characters who definitely belongs in a promotional video about the upcoming D&D proprietary digital play space. I'm really talking about this big, shiny boy. Fricking Optimus Prime. I'm also surprised, and that's just one of 4 totally unexpected announcements delivered in the recent Dungeons & Dragons promotional video, D&D Direct. Not all 4 of these news bites are as wacky as this one. 2 really do have me excited, and there's another that I'm not quite sure what to make of yet. So I would love to hear what you think. But yes, we will also cover the main highlights of the D&D release schedule, even though it was a pretty small portion of their video. Because I'm Bob, this is where we learn how to have more fun playing RPGs together. And first, we gotta get to the bottom of this Transformers thing before someone loses their mind in the comments.
We're starting with Dungeons & Dragons, but there's so much more you can do with it. All sorts of kinds of games and all sorts of types of toys that we want to add over the years.
We're opening it up so you can bring in any kind of character you want, like fight Drist against a robot. You know, you'll be able to do that with all the groups that we're working with.
It's great because we're using those characters and we're telling stories, but we're giving them over to the players too, so you can really play out what you've always wanted to do.
Ah, yes, you've always wanted to know who would win in a fight between Dark Elf Ranger Dristo Erden and Optimus Prime. My money's on the robot. But honestly, this isn't that weird with the background knowledge that Transformers is owned by major toy company Hasbro, which also owns the company that produces D&D, like they said.
We're starting with Dungeons & Dragons, but there's so much more you can do with it. All sorts of kinds of games and all sorts of types of toys that we want to add over the years.
You know, you'll be able to do that with all the groups that we're working with.
So what other types of toys might they add over the years? According to the Wikipedia page for Hasbro franchises, we could be looking at some G.I. Joe fighting Mordenkainen, or more likely, someone fighting My Little Pony, because that franchise already has a role-playing game. But realistically, D&D already announced a couple of these upcoming crossovers. Of course, we gotta tap into all those filthy gamers, so the D&D virtual play space will come with 2 characters from Baldur's Gate 3.
You go take those characters, Asterion and Karlach, you get to play with them and just tell your own tale.
No word yet as to whether or not the rest of the Baldur's Gate characters will be available though. They also announced more plans with Magic the Gathering and some cool new LEGO minifigures coming out this month, and just speculation, but I could totally see them making a simpler version of the D&D virtual tabletop character builder, where you get to make little LEGO minifigures. That would be pretty neat. However, it would pale in comparison to the inevitable crossover that has not been announced yet, but I'd bet my cassette player that it's gonna happen: D&D and the final season of Stranger Things. Back in 2019, D&D published a Stranger Things box set, and even as a huge fan of Stranger Things, I kind of missed that set because I was 100% locked into the D&D Essentials kit at that time. But if they were to announce a new Stranger Things box or book, I might actually get it. And you know they're going to produce some kind of digital characters or maps or something on the virtual tabletop related to Stranger Things. And I know that you have always wanted to see who would win in a fight between the Stranger Things Demogorgon and the D&D Demogorgon. And then the winner fights Optimus Prime. Surprising announcement number 2. One of the things that I'm actually really excited about, the new D&D virtual play space will apparently be functional. No, it'll apparently be functional with other games.
You don't even have to play Dungeons & Dragons necessarily, right? If you want to throw in your own custom rule set or another game, we roll dice, we have toys, like, go crazy. We're starting with Dungeons & Dragons, but there's so much more you can do with it. All sorts of kinds of games and all sorts of types of toys that we want to add over the years.
Yes, that is the same clip that just led into the part about Transformers, but it's not just about adding more toys. He starts with this idea of playing different games. One more time.
You don't even have to play Dungeons & Dragons necessarily, right? If you want to throw in your own custom rule set or another game, we roll dice, we have toys, like, go crazy. We're starting with Dungeons & Dragons, but there's so much more you can do with it.
And I actually have some insider info to support this, because while I was at Gen Con last month, I briefly chatted with these two guys, the lead developers of the D&D Virtual Tabletop, and I won't point any fingers, but one of them told me that his home game primarily uses GURPS, a totally different game system from D&D. And I can only imagine that after putting in years of work, that they'd want to be able to use this virtual tabletop for their own home game. So does this mean that Dungeons & Dragons wants to become like Roll20, a virtual tabletop that hosts dozens of different role-playing games? That could be amazing for people who have invested so heavily into D&D that they're hesitant to buy other TTRPGs, but hey, maybe if a quick start module is included in their D&D Beyond subscription, they dip their toes into the world of RPGs that exists outside of just Dungeons & Dragons. Don't get me wrong, D&D is a great game and people should play whatever games they like. But nobody listens to just one band, or plays one video game or one board game, and if D&D themselves helped people explore more games, that would be very cool. Of course, D&D already makes up almost the entire tabletop game industry, so it would not exactly be a public good for them to completely dominate the digital TTRPG landscape as well. Zero competition means zero innovation and worse user experience for higher and higher costs on your monthly subscription, but we're already getting ahead of ourselves. All they say is this.
If you want to throw in your own custom rule set or another game, we roll dice, we have toys, like go crazy. We're starting with Dungeons & Dragons, but there's so much more you can do with it.
There's so much more that you can do with it. So perhaps they'll only host official D&D, but leave enough flexibility for you to recreate your favorite other games on their platform. Heck, back in the day, Halo 3's custom games was legitimately a highlight of my adolescence, so while I personally don't use virtual tools like this for TTRPGs, I know people could have a ton of fun designing and redesigning their own RPGs on this platform if they're given the flexibility to do so. However, surprising announcement number 3 may shed more light on the possibilities here, but this is the one that I'm really not quite sure how to interpret.
To be part of a community of authors and creators that grow my game table more than just the people sitting at it is so special.
That's kind of been the dream, is to be a part of that.
We're so excited to have so many people making and sharing their D&D content with other people. We're thrilled to announce some of our partnerships with creators that you know and love, whose content will be coming to the D&D Beyond marketplace.
So right here, this is interesting. Currently, D&D Beyond offers partnered books from MCDM, Ghostfire and the Dudes, Kobold Press, Hitpoint Press, as well as one major publisher not shown here. Darrington Press, the publishing wing of Critical Role, who, if you haven't heard of, is pretty much the most popular D&D related brand besides D&D itself. And maybe Baldur's Gate right now. So you'd think if that relationship was continuing to grow, then D&D would want to highlight it here. But I don't know the inner workings of D&D's relationship with Critical Role, so if we're going to speculate about something, let's just read super heavily into this phrasing right here.
We're so excited to have so many people making and sharing their D&D content with other people. We're thrilled to announce some of our partnerships with creators that you know and love, whose content will be coming to the D&D Beyond marketplace.
Creators and content is the kind of language we typically use to talk about things like the Dungeon Dudes videos on YouTube, or Critical Role streams on Twitch, or for what I'm doing, arguably. So if they're just talking about publishers and books, why don't they just say publishers and books? Again, probably reading into this way too much already, but they really didn't give us much information to go on. What I can tell you, though, for sure, is that one of these newly added publishers, Free League, makes fantastic products. And I think I just channeled Billy Mays there for a second. But no joke, the physical books produced by Free League are made with extremely high quality. And when it comes to their games, the real news here is that Free League's officially licensed Lord of the Rings 5e RPG is coming to D&D Beyond, and that's huge. First, it means what it means. There is going to be at least one 5e RPG on D&D Beyond that is not D&D 5e. So what could this mean for other versions of 5e, like Tales of the Valiant by Kobold Press, also featured in that promo video? No one knows, but that would be crazy. And the second interesting thing about this, I'm hoping that D&D Beyond advertising Lord of the Rings 5e will also expose Lord of the Rings fans to Free League's other, and arguably better, officially licensed Lord of the Rings RPG, The One Ring. Yes, 5e is great, but hear me out. Rather than twisting Tolkien's world onto a 5th edition framework like how evil can only corrupt, not create, the One Ring RPG was built from the ground up to evoke the beauty of Tolkien's world, and Free League nailed it. This book is just a joy to read, and so far I've only run a couple quests from their starter set, but as a lifelong fan of this world, I'm really excited to try some more, and I highly recommend it to any Lord of the Rings fans out there. Now, before we get to exciting announcement number 4, which is easily the one I'm most excited about, and there's kind of like hints littered all over my desk, here's some other highlights from the D&D 2025 release schedule that I'd love to hear your opinions on.
The Dragon Anthology book will be the first anthology and adventure book for the new 2024 rules.
This anthology is all about dragons in dungeons, and it's kind of surprising how many people say that they've actually never fought a dragon in D&D.
Yeah, that's why I partnered with a great publisher to write a book all about dungeons, and from the beginning, we made sure we were including some dragons as well.
Part of our reimagining of D&D's core books was us also wanting to return to D&D's most popular setting, the Forgotten Realms.
We are super excited about the Forgotten Realms guide. There hasn't been a player's guide in 5th edition.
It's too much to fit into one book. So our return to the realms is going to be in 2 books. One tailor-made for dungeon masters, and the other a book that is tailor-made for players, but also of use to our DMs.
We start the new player options. Lots of great, crunchy stuff for players to dig into to make new characters. New subclasses, new feats, new backgrounds, new spells, new kinds of spells.
Then over in the Dungeon Master focused book, that's where we're really going to dig into different parts of the realms.
If you want to do urban fantasy, well, we've got Baldur's Gate just for you. If you want to go do survival horror, you can take your adventure off to Icewind Dale.
And so on, naming a few other places like the Dale Lands, the Moonshae Isles, and Sham? I don't know how to pronounce it, just as I don't know how to pronounce sigil or sigil, and that's why I didn't call the virtual tabletop by its name this whole time. But finally, this part. And whoa, there it is, a new starter set. Yes, I've already mentioned in a few recent videos that I've really been looking forward to this announcement because I love the simplicity and the clarity and the beginner-friendly nature of D&D starter sets. The 2014 set with Lost Mines of Phandelver is awesome. It's already a modern classic. And the 2019 D&D Essentials Kit is probably my favorite official D&D product ever. Many of my first videos on this channel are a series of DM guides and dedicated videos just breaking it down and making it more fun. This one is really special to me. And the 2022 set, you know, it had a couple upgrades, but overall it was sort of a step down from the other two, so I'm really hoping this new one is a hit. And I also hope it's a hit because, kind of like I said earlier, besides the potential for a Stranger Things book or box set, I'm not really looking forward to the other things that they've announced and even the other core books that are coming out. So this is kind of like the thing I'm hyped about, and I hope they nail it. They didn't give us a lot of information so far, but here's what we've learned.
We have an amazing new starter set that we are creating. We really lean into using components to teach people how to play.
And what does that mean? Components. Maybe a deck of cards, like in the Essentials Kit, explaining actions on your turn, details for NPCs, the magic items, the quest hooks. These were a pretty great teaching tool alongside the DM screen and the map and more. But maybe there will be additional components like little paper figurines or a fold-out battle grid. Or maybe They mean the adventure itself could be broken into components, like how the Essentials Kit adventure was written really as a series of one-shots that left the perfect amount of room for your players to weave them together into their own story. If you can't tell, I think they should do whatever they can to recreate the success of the D&D Essentials Kit because it's a fantastic product. But wait, there's more.
For the context of this box, it's in a place called the Borderlands, and it takes the players to kind of these three settings. There's the keep on the Borderlands, there's the wilderness itself, and then there is the Caves of Chaos. It sets them forth on this, this awesome journey that they can have for years and years and years, and hopefully bring that starter experience to someone else down the line.
This is going to be good. If you don't know, Keep on the Borderlands is widely considered to be one of the most popular and influential D&D adventures of all time. It sold hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of copies, I don't know the exact numbers, and without getting into any spoilers here at all, the real story behind this module is crazy. It was written by Gary Gygax, co-creator of D&D, in the late 1970s as a replacement for another adventure originally included in the D&D basic set, because the basic set was selling very well, but Gygax wanted to collect the royalties for himself instead of them going to that original author. In other words, yeah, Keep on the Borderlands is a great module, but Gygax literally wrote it as a cash grab, and this all happened just as D&D was becoming a national sensation thanks to the Satanic Panic and the tragic disappearance of a college student who happened to play D&D, but the detective on the case blamed the game for him going missing. It was a whole thing. And since then, Keep on the Borderlands has been either republished or expanded in every edition of D&D, including 5e. This book was released by Goodman Games in 2018, an officially licensed homage to both Keep on the Borderlands and the original basic set adventure, In Search of the Unknown. It's got commentary from several D&D designers, like old school and modern D&D designers, plus reprints of the original modules and 5th edition conversions. And hey, I saw on Twitter that some folks are nervous, to put it nicely, that Hasbro might somehow tarnish this beloved module. But I urge those folks to remember that every version of Keep on the Borderlands came with some changes, and none of them replace the original. Instead, for the first time in almost 50 years, Keep on the Borderlands is going to reach millions of new players who would otherwise never have experienced it. And sharing that love for the game is what it's all about. So I'm already planning, assuming it's really great, planning to make a whole series of videos about this starter set, just like I did for the D&D Essentials Kit back when I started this channel. And this is kind of random, but we recently hit 200,000 subscribers. That's nuts. And my most recent publication, this wilderness setting toolkit for Dungeon Crawl Classics, made it into the top 5 most popular under $5 products on DriveThruRPG. It probably fell out of there by now, but yeah, that was really exciting too. So I always say thank you, but today, just a huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting what I do in one way or another, whether you've been watching the channel since those D&D Essentials Kit videos or you're brand new here. I really appreciate it. And I never could have made it this far, legitimately, without the direct support of the Bob World Builder patrons, who, starting soon, are going to be getting some bonus video content over there. So if that sounds interesting, maybe check it out. But again, thank you, and keep building.